Tacoma and Kitakyushu have been sister cities since June 1959. The two cities share similar histories, as both cities struggled with pollution issues in the early to mid-1900s. At the Kitakyushu City Hall, we were humbled to see these connections to Tacoma through things such as a dream catcher and a Rainier's baseball bat in the mayor's office. Though we did not get a chance to see it, there is a street named in honor of Tacoma within Kitakyushu. There is also a street named in honor of Kitakyushu in Tacoma. The exchange program between the University of Kitakyushu, or UKK, and Tacoma Community College, or TCC, is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. About 50 students from UKK participate in a study abroad program to TCC every 2 quarters. Since 2014, students from TCC have also participated in a 6-month or year-long program to study at UKK. As we have seen firsthand, both the sister city and study abroad programs between Tacoma and Kitakyushu provide a wonderful opportunity for learning and cultural exploration.
The Kyushu area is well known for their usage of renewable resources: solar, wind, biomass. They use it all, including geothermal energy. The Hachobaru geothermal power plant in Oita is one of many geothermal sites in Japan. The area surrounding the plant is filled with many subterranean pockets of hot water, leading to many local hot springs. Geothermal is one of the many renewable energy channels that help power the island of Kyushu and provide about 3% of the power. It also has what is called an injection well, where water is pumped back into the ground, making sure the water pocket does not run out and doesn't collapse.
The University of Kitakyushu's Hibikino campus focuses on green technology, sustainability, and environmental engineering. Some of the featured technologies the campus uses to reduce its carbon footprint are recycling and purifying of all its water, a hydrogen-powered fuel cell engine, a solar-powered chimney, solar panels, sun blockers, and a solar well.
One day, we took a cable car to the top of Mount Sarukura. As we made it to the top of the mountain, what should be a picture-perfect view of all of Kitakyushu was covered by a dense smog. This was a reminder of Kitakyushu's past and history as an industrial hotspot. This view made us realize why we were on that trip. We, as humans, need to start to find ways to help heal the damage that we have done. Otherwise, views like this may not be around much longer.
After only one meal in Japan, it was very obvious that fish is a much larger part of the Japanese diet than the American one. It seems that almost every meal included at least one type of fish, if not 2 or even more. What was even more amazing, though, was not just the variety, but also the volume of fish at the Karato Fish Market, which is just across the Cannon Strait from Kitakyushu. Before departing for the trip, we learned about fishing practices and some of the environmental effects of fishing, and it was eye-opening to see the results of all the fishing that goes on. Among the variety of seafood for sale at the market are fugu pufferfish and whale. While poisonous if prepared incorrectly, fugu is a relatively uncontroversial delicacy. Whale, however, is quite controversial. After seeing whale meat for sale in the market, we had a long discussion about some of the environmental and social controversies around whaling.
Every country basically signed on to it.
The Sone Tidal Flats, southeast of Kitakyushu, is home to many different species of birds and marine wildlife, one of which is the horseshoe crab that is struggling to survive. During the winter, you can find many different species of migratory birds that fly between Australia, Russia, and Alaska. The people of Kitakyushu work very hard to keep this a clean and protected home for the diverse wildlife that inhabit the Sone Tidal Flats. When we arrived at the Sone Tidal Flats, we were amazed at the amount of people that were there. We were given a brief description of what we were to do and headed out to do some cleanup, look for certain birds and any dead crab. The younger students wanted to interact, and before I knew it, I was on my knees in the sand, surrounded by a bunch of people getting a lesson from a 10-year-old boy about the anatomy of the horseshoe crab.
Male.
Male, yes.
Male. Boy.
Has the
Head
bumpy
yes,
bumpy ridge.
ridge.
Yep.
Female.
Smooth.
Smooth,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Oh.
This is an experience that I will never forget. At Kirikushu University, we attended a green tea ceremony that I really enjoyed. The accuracy and precision with which you move, rotate, and pour the tea is everything I expected it to be. I studied the movements of the tea maker and the assistant over and over. I really enjoyed this because in the States we don't have tradition like this. I was very honored to attend.
By far the biggest cultural difference between Japan and the United States that I noticed was how polite everyone in Japan tended to be. And being clean and following the rules goes along with this. There were many etiquette things that tended to be done differently in Japan, but I think the etiquette while on public transportation is a great example. Everyone was polite on public transportation. Everyone we saw was clean and presentable, and they followed the rules, putting others before themselves while still getting where they needed to go. I think this is a great example that goes to show how everyone tends to think about everyone else and have great respect for the rules and other people in Japan.
The Natural History Museum in the Yahata area of Kirikushu gave us an amazing view into the past. Starting from the beginning of life, we saw the evolution of organisms on Earth as we understand it now. Throughout history, life has proven to be persistent, stubborn, ever-changing. However, things cannot change in an instant. While life has the amazing ability to adapt, this is only if it is given time. Life may be persistent. However, in many cases, it is also very fragile. The amount of species we saw that have gone extinct due to the smallest of things was very revealing into the life cycle of the planet itself. The Earth's history is full of cataclysmic events that have spelled the end of many species on Earth. Today, the greatest change that has caused extinction of species is us as humans. We destroy habitat, we build, we hunt, and drive other species to extinction. But even we are not safe. We cannot handle everything. So we need to be careful, because if we aren't, we will be the ones who may go extinct.
Upon arrival in Japan, the use of much more environmentally friendly cars, as well as the widespread use of mass transit, was very obvious. This was very fascinating to me, and was one of the biggest environmental and social differences between the Japan and the United States that I noticed. It seemed as if 2 out of every 3 cars were hybrid or electric, and, save for the occasional sports car or van, all the cars were very small and fuel efficient. Further, almost everyone, rich and poor alike, seemed to take mass transit. I think this was because a combination of the density of development and availability of mass transit.
One of the cultural aspects I realized while I was in Japan was the difference in customer service. The overall mindset of servers and service people in Japan are much more formal than the mindset of service people in the US. Many places in the US believe that the idea of treating the customer as family is what gives a business a comfortable environment. However, in Japan, it is very different. They have a saying which is, "The customer is God," which means that the customer is to be treated with the utmost respect, not as family. To some people, this sounds very strict and stiff. However, it gives a very different comfortable feeling, a feeling of being served. The food in Japan itself was a cultural experience to us. From the way it's presented, prepared, and the ingredients that go into it, all are done in a very precise way. One major difference is the amount of processed foods. Many of their ingredients are fresh. They try to focus on the natural flavors of the ingredients to shine in the dish. While the number of people in Japan and the size of the country necessitates a high percent of imported food, it never feels that way when you eat it. They also have basic cultural differences, such as the type of meat that are commonly eaten, the high fish consumption, low beef consumption, and even their consumption of horse and whale meat.
Samurai were warriors of Japan and held in high regard. Samurai were the most respected, educated, and feared members of society. They made up only 10% of the population. The samurai only answered to his daimyo, and he to the shogun and the emperor. Daimyos lived in beautiful castles all over Japan. One afternoon we traveled to Ganryo Island. This was the site of a famous samurai fight. Two of the greatest swordsmen of their time, Sasaki Kohiro, who was known as the demon of the western provinces and well-established duelist. He even fought off 3 people at once in a sword fight. And Miyamoto Musashi, who used a double blade technique. Miyamoto Musashi showed up to the duel hours late to disrupt his opponent's inner state. It worked, for Musashi won the duel, and he did so with a wooden oar that he carved into a sword. Many of the students and guests at our hostel were very keen to work on their English. They even did an English speaking night called English Cafe. Still, communication was extremely hard for me. Before I left, I thought I would be able to communicate easy enough with body English and persistence. That didn't work out so well, and I eventually downloaded Google Translate. I talked for hours with people that I had tried to talk with earlier in the trip, but did not have much success. I spent one night talking to the son of a green tea farmer about everything under the sun. Later, I was able to talk to a guy at the Tonga table, our hostel, that I had tried repeatedly to talk to in English with no success. We talked until 11 that night, and it felt good to finally get to know him.
Battleship Island off the coast of Nagasaki is a city that was built on a coal mine and very quickly grew in population. But just as quickly as it was built, it was abandoned. The first building on Battleship Island was in 1918, and the city grew in population and size all the way until the 1970s. The company and the island boomed for decades, growing at an alarming rate. However, with the shifting economy from steam to oil, the work dried up. The workers lost their jobs, and the families packed up and left. Battleship Island now stands as a monument to the world to showcase the importance of careful resource use.